Hello and welcome to episode 272 of Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast on all of the internet. My name is Summer Rain.
My name is Patrick Knisley.
My name is Jordan Willis.
And my name is David Howe.
It's the four of us here together again, and we are all here to talk about the Indie World / Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase that just aired this week, as foretold. And we're going to go over all of the games in that, all of our, talk about our favorites, what we liked, what we maybe didn't like. Before that, we'll also talk about the news for this week. Another mobile game death on the horizon. Animal Crossing Pocket Camp. Going to talk about the much anticipated Mario Sunshine mod coming out. Super Mario Eclipse. Super excited about that. And we're getting some new Mario Kart Legos. Super fun. But before all of that, how is everybody doing?
I'll go first because I had probably the weirdest, whatever. Anyway, this past weekend I went to New York City, and the movie I've been shooting, we finally are wrapped as far as we know. Like we had one last scene with a particular part that was hard to cast. Our main actor lives in New York, so it just ended up being easier to cast in New York and then fly to New York to film this one last scene. I also went to the MoMA on Sunday, which was fucking awesome. I've been wanting to go for so long. And since we had an off day, that was like our backup day. I was like, I don't care what y'all do. I'm going to MoMA. I saw one of my favorite painters, Remedios Votto. I saw one of her paintings for the first time, and it was like incredible. I stared at it for like 10 minutes. It was just beautiful. And then, got to see Starry Night. Yeah, whatever. There's also that Picasso of like, it's like 5 women. And I've seen it a bunch, but I didn't realize it's like literally like 10 feet tall. It's massive. Same with some Pollocks that were like really big too. Pretty cool stuff. But yeah, and then I got back. So I flew back in yesterday. So I'm still kind of like in recovery mode. But yeah, that's what I've been up to.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I have mostly been working and then crunching on Monochrome Heights for San Japan. I'm taking the game to show there this weekend. If you are in San Antonio and going to San Japan, come by and say hi. I would love to see you and have you play the current version of Monochrome Heights that I'm taking that hopefully has very few bugs because I am squashing them like literally right before we started recording still. That's really mostly what I've been up to.
Yeah.
Nice, yeah. I've just been kind of hanging with some friends, just doing some fun stuff. I don't know. I've just been chilling. You don't got to know everything I'm doing all the time. Get off my back, Dad. What the fuck? Anyway, no, I'm chill. I did some streaming the other night, which was a ton of fun. And work has just been like really intense. Like it was like I thought this week was going to be a lot chiller. And then it was like, oh no, wait, we have like all this shit. And it's like, we're nearing the end of this like production that I'm working on Castlevania. And so it's like, we're kind of, there's like a little bit of a sprint and there's a little bit of just like, I don't know. I'm not going to get into all the weeds, but it's been quite a bit of stuff to do. So after doing the live stream this morning of the Nintendo Direct, now we're doing this today. So it's just going to be a long day event. That's why I'm drinking Red Bull Sugar Free. This podcast is brought to you by Red Bull Sugar Free. It gives you wings. So that's how I'm doing this week.
Nice. I am also just doing things, chilling. Went to Chicago VGM Fest. That was a lot of fun. Got to see the album premiere of Kingdom of Zeal, and they are a Chrono Trigger band, a jazz fusion Chrono Trigger band. I thought I had heard every possible conceivable cover so far of Corridors of Time, and they blew me away with their version of it. It was so good, so satisfying. Other than that, a lot of Fire Emblem Three Houses and a lot of working with bees. I am not immune to bee stings. In fact, I've just been blowing up, figuring out how to deal with that. I'm not allergic, which is like a good thing, but
it's not a my girl situation.
But I'm having more of a reaction than I like kind of thought. I don't know. It's not like immunity is not going to be genetic. Like I assume my dad like has built up this tolerance, but like I used to work with them all the time when I was younger and I never had a problem. So like the amount that I'm getting stung now, I'm like, what is happening? I mean, they're probably just more aggressive. I don't know. It's not like I'm not suiting up. They're just like, they're still getting through. And then I went to a potato pancake fest this weekend as well. Fantastic.
Wow.
There's some fantastic polka bands there. Got there towards the end, so they gave us extra pancakes, and it was they were very good, but I could not finish them, which is not common for me.
Glad to see you continuing to embrace the Midwest. Summer.
I know. I just I just keep having the most Chicago time possible, right? I went to that and just like seeing some of the people that were there, I was like, I got to watch season 3 of The Bear already.
I started watching The Bear as well after coming back from Chicago. And I was like, hey, there's that train. Hey, there's that thing I saw.
Yeah.
Hey, there's that thing I was on.
Yep.
It was pretty fun.
That show loves to do that.
Summer, you did remind me, I didn't mention this in our private Discord channel because I wanted to say it on the pod. So also the same weekend that we were there was at a huge anime convention called Anime NYC.
Yes,
and,
that was this past weekend. Oh, you were, oh my God.
Yeah, we were several blocks from it. So just everywhere when I got there, I was like, why are there so many people in cosplay just wandering the streets of New York City?
It's a 60,000 person con.
It was nuts. And like right across the street was the official after party, like event space. And I was like, man, do I just try to sneak my way in and hang out with all these anime nerds? But the weirdest thing that happened was I went down into the lobby and the entire cast of Critical Role was hanging out in the lobby of the hotel I was at. And I was like, I didn't notice it first. Jared mentioned it, and then I was going to get water, and I was like, what in the world is happening? And it was just very bizarre, but
that tracks.
There you go. I forgot to mention that, but yeah, that happened as well.
All right. Well, last week we did an episode with a guest developer, Aaron Goodall, who's making the Game Boy Color game Zephyr's Pass. Mm-hmm. And we got some shout outs related to that over on our YouTube. Caleb S. Gardner said fire emoji. They didn't say fire emoji. They posted them.
Fire emoji.
Normal behavior.
Game Boy Homebrew DE said, I'm so excited for Zephyr's Pass. Kiruseta said, Zephyr's Pass looks really impressive. I'm blown away by how much you can do with such limited hardware. Looking forward to checking it out. And Graham Kasner said, he's the man, probably in reference to Aaron. And over on Discord, Medium Quality said that they've gotten to do a tiny bit of QA testing for Incubate's Game Boy games. Incubate is the publisher or one of the publishers. And they're doing cool stuff over there. And then, unrelated to that episode, but related to a few episodes back, over on Apple Podcasts, we got a new review from Gojo J, who said they listened to the episode involving King K. Rool, presumably the debate episode, and heard a Donkey Kong Country 3 reference to the Kremlin War, so that deserves a 5-star review and follow.
Let's go.
And, oh boy, Gojo J, if you're listening, you got to go back a few more episodes beyond that and hear our Donkey Kong Country rankings episode. I think you'll be pleased.
Maybe you'll get offended by all the fucking shade that one of the hosts was casting on it.
Yeah, they'll drop their review to 1 star.
Yeah. Gojo J will not like my take.
If you too want to be shouted out, then leave a comment on our YouTube or send us a DM or join the Discord and be part of the conversation there. Also, we appreciate all of our patrons over on Patreon. If you want to financially support the podcast, you can join our Patreon. And it really helps the algorithm if you like and subscribe on YouTube, and then you get to see the video version as well.
Mm-hmm. And thank you for the Apple Podcast reviews. Those really go a really long way. Love to see those.
Well, we're going to talk about the video game news for the week. Obviously, the big Nintendo news we're going to save for our main topic, but there's some other notable things, starting off with Gamescom. So last week we recorded kind of right before opening night happened. That happened. There were a bunch of announcements, a lot of follow-up kind of announcements, right? I don't think there was a whole lot of new game announcements. There was the new Borderlands game. That was maybe the big, like, never heard of announcement. I don't know if there's anything, not a lot Switch related. I mean, there are a few things that were shown off that kind of relate to the Direct, and we're both there and in the Direct, but not a lot of, I don't know. Was there any announcements y'all are excited about? I guess I'll ask it that way.
I just thought it was funny that like Borderlands 4 got announced and it was supposed to be kind of probably like their victory lap after the success of the Borderlands movie. Right. And it's like, it's kind of like, you know, when the Fallout show came out, everyone's like, shit, where's Fallout 5? And they're like, we don't have a game ready. Like, I don't know. It's just kind of like really strange. But
it's funny seeing Borderlands get announced because I'm not going to say who, I guess, but one of my friends is writing on that game. So I've like known that game has like been coming out for a while. So it was nice finally seeing it get announced. That's all I'll say because I don't want to get anybody in trouble. But it's, like you said, Jordan, it's like that movie was a huge womp womp. So, but it's not, everybody still likes the game. So I'm still happy to see a fourth game coming out.
What about the Dune game, David? Is that up your alley? Are you interested in that one? I know they showed off some gameplay from that.
Look, I like, I obviously love the Dune world and I love the Dune lore. I've read the book a bunch of times and I'm excited for that. I just, an open world survival, multiplayer RPG is not, if Pal World couldn't get me to play that style of game, like, I don't know that like, fucking Atreides game is going to work, or something like that. So I'm excited for people and I'm excited that it exists because I like to see the IP proliferated. But I don't think I'll be picking it up myself.
We talked about a couple weeks ago, Secret Levels, the new anthology TV show that's going to be on Amazon Prime Video. And there was actually a trailer for that. And it showed off a lot of the games that are going to be in that show. Oh, there's a lot. There's Mega Man, Pac-Man, all kinds of stuff. How did y'all feel about that? I don't know. What did y'all think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it looks kind of cool. It's all of the animation styles are a lot more unified than I was anticipating. I thought it would be a lot of different kinds of styles. That's kind of what Love, Death, and Robots was a little bit more. It was a little bit more varied. And this definitely has some variance in there as well. But it's like, I couldn't even tell where the Spelunky section was because it was kind of like a little bit more like realistic looking, it almost kind of looked like Arcane or something like that rather than like the more cartoony style of Spelunky that I'm used to. So I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic for the show. Sony has a whole episode that's just going to be like Sony properties, but then they also have like a Concord episode, which is funny because that game just came out and has been a complete flop after like 8 years of development, sadly. So it's like they were like, yeah, we'll do a Sony episode if you do something about Concord, try to get that thing out the door. But I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited that Keanu Reeves is going to be in the Armored Core episode. I think an Armored Core episode is going to be really cool regardless.
Yeah, I think you articulated what I didn't like about it, which was that it all felt a little samey and that I couldn't tell where one thing began and one thing ended. And like stylistically, some of the things I would like to see weren't kind of the style I would, or I can't, you know what I'm trying to say. Mm. But until it comes out, who knows? Also interesting at Gamescom, during it, Xbox announced some new pricing for their new models and when they're coming out and that kind of stuff. So I don't know that we need to dig into this here as a Nintendo podcast, but there are going to be several more Xbox Series, consoles at different price points, including a $600 one, which is...
hell yeah, we finally made it. Back to PS3 levels.
Just a lot, right? Like, I don't know.
That'll surely save Microsoft.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing special about it is that it's 2 terabyte instead of 1 terabyte.
It's Galaxy Black.
That's what you're paying for, is the color, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. It is funny, like the comment you made about, this will save Microsoft. Like, this is going against what everybody was predicting for Microsoft, right? Like, people were thinking they were going to move away from consoles. Like, maybe we are just going to be all cloud-based. So, like, okay, we are still churning out consoles that I don't know who the market is for. Like, I don't know who the audience is for these new ones.
Yeah. I mean, there's a million things you could say about Microsoft's kind of handling of the consoles this generation. I think that a lot of developers are really having trouble with the Series S, making games that are able to be played on both that and that. It's holding back a lot of games. I think a lot of gamers are really resentful. But
to both.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So, we don't have to get all into it as a Nintendo podcast, but it is still a tough time for Microsoft.
Well, moving on then to the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie. Just got its first trailer a little bit before, or today, the day we're recording this, I believe it was when it came out. A lot of Shadow the Hedgehog in this. I don't know.
Speaking of Keanu.
That girl's going to die. That girl's going to die. Let's go.
Yeah. This is looking pretty good. I mean, played very seriously, this trailer.
Yeah.
It was like not a lot of humor in there. There was like a little bit with Jim Carrey at the end. It was nice to see Jim Carrey back. He's got a nice big fat belly in it, which is nice. But yeah, I don't know. I'll definitely see this when it comes out. I mean, it's only a few months away. There's like a big like viral marketing campaign the day before. There was like all these like projected images of like Shadow the Hedgehog all over like major cities, which I thought was pretty funny. But yeah.
Finally, we get a movie about blue versus orange, even though Shadow is black. All the imagery was like blue and orange fighting each other. I don't know. I do like that, though, canonically, Shadow was created by Dr. Eggman's father. And it seems to be like they will be continuing that storyline within the feature film, which is really bizarre. And then also, I don't think I ever watched the second one, but in this trailer, you get a reference to the like mother character of Sonic from the first movie that is like not mentioned again for the rest of the movie. And I'm like, is that in the second Sonic movie?
I couldn't tell you, man. That thing fucking washed over me. I mean, I enjoyed it when I saw it, but I couldn't tell you anything that happens.
Oh man, it's like canonically not a character in the Sonic universe, and it's just like this big like owl or whatever taking care of Sonic in the first one, and then there's like a drawing of her in this one. I was like, I thought they were just gonna completely forget about this character. Anyway,
yeah,
I will probably watch this, but I have to watch the second one first.
Do you?
Well, moving on. Nintendo has announced that Animal Crossing Pocket Camp is going to shut down at least the live service part of it in November 28th of this year. So this is the mobile game, the mobile Animal Crossing game. I know there's been a lot of people feeling, sad about this, but Nintendo is doing a kind of cool thing, especially for a live service game that's going to allow the game to continue to exist in an offline version that's compatible with what you have. So you can transfer your save over to that, which is about as good as it can get for shutting down a live service game. I feel like some people are like, hate live service games, but then, when the one they like gets shut down,
Yeah, they do rotating items in the shop for the live service element. And I'm curious like what that's going to look like offline, if you're going to be able to access like new items or if they're going to be on like a set timer rotating. They announced that, some of the online functionality of like being able to visit other people's camps or being able to give gifts is going offline. So I just am curious what that means, but they said they're not going to announce kind of the offline version, or at least what's going to happen until October is when they're going to have more details, which would probably include the price of said offline version. But I mean, I really can't see this thing being more than like $10. So if you have invested a lot of time into the game, that $10 is probably well worth it. My partner Valerie actually plays this game quite a bit. I had to break the news to her, and I was like, oh dude, I have something really bad to tell you, and I'm so sorry. And I think she was thankful it was Animal Crossing, but also like was upset that it was Animal Crossing because I was like, fuck you.
Yeah, she thought like somebody died, and you were like,
yeah. Like,
don't worry, it's just that game that you love with all your heart. Yeah,
just the only mobile game you've played consistently for the past 6 years is going offline. I'm so sorry.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, there's like a lot of people that these games go offline. I'm like, oh, nobody was playing them anyway. But it's like when they announced Mario Kart was going offline. I met up with a friend and she was like, what? Mario Kart's going offline? She like played that shit every single day, like these games like still have big audiences even when they've been going on for a while. I hope that this means that they're doing something else with Animal Crossing in the mobile space, because I think Animal Crossing and mobile is a match made in heaven. I played this game like a little bit when it came out. I have not kept up with it. Summer, did you play this game?
I did, and I definitely stopped playing it once New Horizons came out, but I played it a lot more leading up to that because there were transferable rewards. Right. So I, got back into it for that reason and probably played it like consistently for a couple months. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's great that they're doing an offline version.
Yeah.
You can't really do that with like a Mario Kart, and so I think that's really fantastic. So many people just don't give a fuck and they're like, bye. And that's it. So this is the best they can do. Sad to see it pass, but yeah.
We'll move on to Did You Know Gaming? The YouTube channel has done a new video about Crash Bandicoot, and in particular, a canceled Crash game that would presumably have been Crash Bandicoot 5 that would have been a crossover with Spyro the Dragon. And I haven't had a chance to watch this video myself, but I know this has been making the rounds. Anybody here watch it or have any thoughts or feelings about this game?
I have not had a chance to watch this video, sadly. I've heard it was very well researched, and I am a fan of Did You Know Gaming and Liam Robertson. But yeah, I mean, either way would have been great. I mean, Activision and the story of Toys for Bob is a very depressing story. Activision took developers off of so many games to focus on Call of Duty, not only Toys for Bob with the Crash trilogy and Crash 4, which came out, but also, there was supposed to be a Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4 remake, which I still hope gets made because I love those games so much. And I just wanted way more after the 1 and 2 remake, especially with 3 being my favorite game. So, this is, if anything, it's a bit of a cautionary tale about Activision and kind of where their priorities laid, where they laid to their priorities. I look forward to watching this. It's just, it's like feature film length video on YouTube. So I got to find the time.
We'll move on to Mario Sunshine mod/fan game is just now been sort of released today, the day we're recording this. Super Mario Eclipse. I think we've talked about this a few weeks or month or so back whenever they kind of had a big trailer at some point, if I recall correctly. The biggest Mario Sunshine sort of like mod fan project, right? They've been working on this for several years, and it is finally out. Anybody looking forward to playing this one?
Yeah, I definitely have been looking forward to this one for a long time. I've been following the development for a long time and have been wanting to play it for a while. I played the demo a while ago, which was very fun. And I'm looking forward to playing the full thing. It really is a remarkably huge achievement that they've been able to pull off here with this game. It is truly like a sequel to Sunshine, right? So I can't wait to load this up on my Steam Deck and give it a play. It's quite a bit of games that I want to get through at the moment, but I cleared some off of my list, which I'll talk about at the end of this episode. So yeah, looking forward to this very much.
Sticking with Mario for a minute. A while back, we got a teaser that there was going to be some Lego Mario Kart sets. Well, we finally have images and a look at these Lego Mario Kart sets. And I'm going to say, unfortunately, they are in the style of the Mario Legos, so that they are that sort of chunkier style, which I don't quite like as much. But
they're like Teletubby style, or no? It's got his face is animated. Is that what it is?
Well, he's got an animated chest.
Okay,
I've got one right behind me, but I won't grab it. But it's just all the characters are a little bit chunky. I actually like Mario the least. Some of the other ones are okay. But yeah, we got pictures of all these sets. There's a variety of them. But Yoshi's on bikes, I think those ones look okay. I don't know. It doesn't speak into me. But yeah, I don't know. Anybody else?
The Wild Wiggler cart just looks incredible. I don't know. Some of the carts are like what was really appealing to me when I was looking at these, because I'm like, they look like they do in the game, and it's fun to see which ones they decide to include. I also like that they are including some of the Koopa kids in it as well. Yeah, will I buy any of these? Probably not, but I like to look.
Fair enough. Well, we'll see how they do and how many more they keep making, because the Mario stuff, they've been sticking with it. So we're going to round out the news this week with a little bit of sales numbers from Circana, who is the formerly known as NPD. They have video game sales for the U.S. spending. And every month, Matt Piscatella gets to share with us these sales numbers. So this is for July. There's always a whole lot of data to parse through from all the consoles and hardware and all that kind of stuff. But it's always interesting here as a Nintendo podcast to look at the Nintendo charts. And you have to bear in mind that Nintendo does not give Circana their digital sales information. So this is primarily, especially for first-party stuff, it's strictly physical sales. But of note, Nintendo World Championships NES Edition was at the top of the charts for Nintendo games. And it was also, I think, on the charts for the month in general. But the fact that it's ranked number one, obviously that game's doing okay, I guess. Again, that's all physical. Luigi's Mansion 2 is still kind of hanging on near the top. So, I mean, there's not been a whole lot of big releases otherwise. So that makes sense. And of course, Mario Kart 8 is always high up on those charts.
There are still people who don't own it.
Yeah.
I think it'd be interesting to compare the sales numbers for Nintendo World Championships with like Echoes of Wisdom when that comes out later in this year or next month, I suppose. But that'll be really interesting to see.
Well, if you're interested in those sales numbers, there's a lot more data out there, but that was the kind of stuff that jumped out at me and is more interesting from a Nintendo standpoint. But that is going to do it for our news section. And we are going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking all about that Indie World and Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase. All right, we are back. And this week we are talking about the Indie World Showcase that was paired with the Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase. Smooshed them together, Nintendo did, and kind of surprised us because this is August. And, usually we get this in September. Man, there was a leaker, PH Brazil, I think is their name, right? Who was saying this was going to happen. And I know I was skeptical and I didn't even want to put it in the news before this happened, but they were right. So
Hot Girl Video 69 also called this.
Nice.
So that person continues their track record of
to exist,
being right just enough for me to keep being subscribed to them on Twitter. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if y'all want to talk about this big picture now or mostly afterwards, because there are obviously some implications and possible implications, we should say, for what this means and why this was done this way, to be a partner showcase and to pair it with the indie world and all that. But maybe we save that till after?
Yeah, let's save that till after. But I think maybe just overall impressions wise, I was pretty happy with this. I went in very low expectations on this, which I think was appropriate. I think especially the indie world exceeded my expectations. I think this is probably one of the best indie worlds I've ever seen personally. There's just a lot of stuff that I found fascinating, a lot of great updates, and a lot to be excited for in the coming year, especially when compared against the Nintendo Direct itself, which was a partner showcase, first of all, and second of all, really felt like it was, this is the Switch running on fumes here. You know what I mean? This is what you get in the final year of a system's release, right?
Right.
I don't think there was as much for me like in these presentations, but I think I can set that aside and say that, I can see that there was a lot. And I thought it was interesting that it really did feel like a Nintendo Direct. And that might be true of some of the more recent partner showcases, but I still have that taint in my mind of like sometimes the early partner showcases were a little bit short or weird or and so my expectations for it are pretty low, but it felt like you throw in 2 or 3 Nintendo announcements / updates and that would have felt like
it's not like they couldn't have. They've been dropping stuff separately,
Yeah.
So there was definitely a reason that they didn't just hold all this till September and have it be a Nintendo Direct. Because you're right, they could have combined these things into one banner, and that indie presentation or the indie announcements were hype enough to where I think they could have been in a Nintendo Direct.
You're right. Yeah. A lot of the games during the partner showcase were on the level of, or, like repeat additional announcements from things that have been announced in normal Direct. So maybe that says more about Nintendo IPs and the maybe waning interest in the exclusivity. No, just kidding.
I definitely think this kind of harkens that the next actual Nintendo Direct we get might be a Super Switch Direct or more of a game specific Direct. But overall, I was pretty pleased with the presentation, and I thought combining these two was actually really smart, because putting them both individually, I'm kind of it's 10 to 20 minutes, but having a nice 40-minute beefy presentation felt pretty good. And the other thing I was really stoked on was I feel like in the last presentations, especially, there was not a lot of and later today. This had a ton of and later today's. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which is game drops, game shadow drops, also update shadow drops. So it's just a really nice thing. And those are my favorite parts of the presentation, is when they're oh, and by the way, you don't have to wait very long. That was just really nice for me. So overall, I was yeah, okay, cool. I'm here for it.
Well, let's do it then. Let's walk through both of these presentations, starting with the indie world, since that's what Nintendo started with. Balatro. They opened with Balatro, a free update to Balatro, with 4 separate crossovers with other games. Essentially, Jordan, you're our Balatro expert. I assume these are just skins, right? Like deck skins for these.
Yeah, man. I downloaded the update, but I have not had a chance to like jump in yet. I couldn't really tell because it seemed like some of the things that they were doing might involve like newer play mechanics, but I don't imagine it being super dense, but it might be. I really don't know. I haven't like been able to check it out yet, and I didn't want to read too much about it. I kind of want to just be surprised in case that it is like some nice new mechanics and stuff like that, just kind of suck me back in. And I know that there is going to be a larger update for Balatro, if not this year, next year. That's going to be basically like their large scale DLC update to the game. So I know that this is kind of like leading up to that, but I mean, just the fact that this even happened is kind of crazy because it's like it's a big enough game that they're able to get other games to let them use their IP within it. Big enough as like, Vampire Survivors and The Witcher. That's like the most surprising one to me. But I guess CD Projekt Red is kind of like more open to like fan made kind of stuff. So that was pretty cool to see. But
and it made sense too with, Gwent, and there's kind of like a card game within Witcher. And so, I mean, obviously just somebody at CD Projekt Red is a fan of Balatro, right? I mean, probably everybody is. Everybody loves Balatro. I don't know anybody who has played that game and it's like, fuck Balatro. Like that game's just, everybody likes that game, right? But no, I'd love to see more of this stuff. Yeah, it seems like the cards are mostly cosmetic, although I do think there are a couple new cards in this update and a couple new mechanics as well that are kind of hidden within the updates. This game hasn't latched onto me in quite the same way that it has on to a lot of people. I think I've only really beaten one run. I've kind of skimmed past it a little bit, but I'm just excited to see these kinds of crossovers. I mentioned this during the stream that I did today, but this just reminds me of, back when Meat Boy would show up in like every indie game, right? Yeah. Or like a Commander Video from the Bit Trip games would show up in all these other like indie games, and they would just kind of like have each other's backs and do these little like Super Smash Brothers-esque crossovers with each other. So it's just nice to see that spirit still staying around today, even if one of these crossovers is a AAA franchise.
We'll move on to the next announcement, which was Neva. This game, I think, was shown off in Summer Game Fest, if I'm not mistaken, or sometime around then.
It was in an old Nintendo Direct as well.
Okay, yeah, I couldn't remember. I know we've seen it before. I wasn't sure if it was a Nintendo presentation or not, but they have dated this game. This is by the makers of Grease. It's a little bit similar in terms of visuals and mechanics, but also seems to have combat. They gave a date for October 15th for this. And I guess we should just, to back up, that Balatro was one of those today things. But so this was dated for not too far off, right? Just a month and a half or so. Some of us here have expressed interest in this. I agree with that. I don't know if there's anything else to say about that one.
I love artsy games that I have no idea what I'm getting into, right? I really did enjoy Grease, and I will probably enjoy this. I like something that looks cool that I don't understand, and getting into it and then still not understanding it for like 2 hours. Those are probably turn out to be some of my favorite games.
And the animation just looks absolutely incredible. Mm-hmm. That's all I wanted to add. I was just like blown away. Yeah.
Yeah, this looks great, and it looks like it's a lot more up my alley than Grease. I'll definitely be picking this up whenever it drops.
The next game shown off was called Moth Cubit, and this was a weird-looking game where you play as like an insect, some shady company, and uncovering things, and a lot of mini games. It's kind of hard to explain. I don't even know if, but it just looked like a pretty cool narrative / mini game oriented. They think they described it as like an RPG too.
Yeah, I was getting major like Earthbound, Undertale, Lisa vibes. That's kind of a whole genre of RPG at this point, are like Earthbound likes or Mother likes, And so this definitely reminded me of that. But yeah, like you said, there was a lot of different gameplay styles in there. It's kind of like they threw everything at the game and just said, well, we'll put a little bit of everything in this game. And it had a lot of charm. Looks really cool. I love the graphic style. We'll have to see. I'd like to see more about it before making a decision on whether or not I'm going to pick this one up.
Not me. Moths are in. So I'm in.
I like the title. Moth Cubit.
Yeah.
Sounds like a Star Wars character.
That does. And that's coming out spring of 2025. So you got a little time to hear more about that one. Up next was an announcement for a new Coffee Talk game, Coffee Talk Tokyo. So as you may know, the creator of Coffee Talk passed away a couple of years ago. But they kind of announced this by several groups of people that had worked on the previous games, came together to make a new game. That's pretty cool for fans of that franchise that it continues and seems to be, I have not played any of these, but I know a lot of people like them. But it looks very similar to the other ones and looks, like they're continuing the trend there. So up next was Sea of Stars, a free DLC, The Throes of the Watchmaker, coming out spring of 2025. So another one that's a little further out. So interesting that it's free and so far out and they're showing it off. I don't know. We were talking about this, right? Jordan, you said you might play it because it's free.
Well, I'll play David's copy of it for free. I did play all of Sea of Stars and I did enjoy the game, but I have this, I play so many games over time that I just kind of forget very quickly after I beat a game what I even did in that game or what the game was about. So like by the time they announced this, I was like, oh yeah, like I can't really tell like where this would take place, if this is like after everything or if it's something you access in the middle of the game. I don't really know. I will play it because it is free and I did enjoy my time with Sea of Stars. But yeah, it's like bizarre to me that this is coming out almost like probably like a year and a half after the game came out, because the game came out about a year ago now, August of 2023. So
I think it just shows that they were working on the main game all the way up until release and that they've been working on this after.
Yeah.
So I think honestly, take as much time as you need. It looks very, very Chrono Triggery, right? I think way more wearing its influence on its sleeve here than even the base game did with like the robot character and everything like that. And, but yeah, I mean, it looks great. I think obviously it's hard to ride the hype when you release something so far out, but I think it's also admirable not to rush something out of the gate or to hold content back that you've been working on before the game actually comes out.
Sure. Yeah. I think it actually speaks to the success of a game from a studio of that size. I feel like it's not actually that uncommon, right? Again, I know I talk about it all the time on this podcast, but games like Stardew Valley, like that game just got a free update and it's been around for how many years? So I would like to see that to be a continued trend of like, oh, our game did well. And so since we're still making money, we're just going to keep making content for that game because that also regenerates interest and then people will pick up the game again just because there is new content, or like people will purchase the game again,
Next was another crossover. This is Power Wash Simulator and getting a crossover with Shrek, of all things, for paid DLC coming out this fall. Weird.
Body wants. Come on, man. You gotta finish. If I set you up with a sum, you gotta hit me with the body. That's okay.
I didn't think I was gonna have to watch Poop Girl play this anymore. But I have accepted that this is gonna be happening in my home. So
we should all be so lucky to be able to revisit Shrek's swamp and the dragon's room, which I don't even remember as a room from the movie. And dressed in a knight's outfit. I don't know. I had to stop and rewind and watch this a second time because I was like, is this really a Shrek Power Wash Simulator? Like was not on my bingo card for 2025.
You just throw darts and then whoever responds is what you get to work with, right?
Well, the next thing shown off was probably the thing that interested me the most. And that is a game called Morsels that was announced here, coming out in February of 2025. Just the visual style of this game really spoke to me. I'm not a huge roguelite fan, but I am interested in this one. I don't know how to describe it. It's like you're a little
Morsel
thing.
Yeah, I think somebody called it in my chat the Binding of Animal Well, which I thought was pretty apt description because it definitely gave me like Animal Well vibes with like both the style of the pixel art graphics and like the CRT filter and the music and everything. But then it kind of had also that top-down shooter kind of vibe. Honestly, like I was saying earlier with Balatro, like I really like Balatro, but it's hard for me to get into. It's like a game kind of like needs to be like Binding of Isaac for me to get into it as a roguelike, you know? And so this immediately I was like, is this my replacement for Binding of Isaac, you know? Because I'm not really playing that game anymore because I played it for like 3,000 hours and it's like, you know, I can only do fucking so much before I wear myself out, right? I think this looks fantastic. This was definitely, I think out of all the games, well, there was one game in the regular direct that we'll get to that really made me excited. But I think out of most of the games, this is the one that really caught my eye.
We'll follow up on that whenever we hear more about this game, but we can move on to Date Everything, a game where you can literally date anthropomorphized, I don't know, vacuums.
Let's fucking go.
And I don't remember what some of the other like specifics were. The game itself, they said, like the text box or something, the GUI. I don't know. It was
yeah. There's text box Chan, I believe, was the character's name that you can date.
So I can't remember what the number they said, but like over 100 or something dateable characters or something like that in this game.
Incredible. Yeah.
Coming out pretty soon on October 24th. Yeah, that happened.
And this is not the same people as what was the game Boyfriend Dungeon where you date.
Nah. Yeah.
It's completely
similar
different.
vibes, but yeah, no, not. I don't think it's the same. It doesn't look the same. But
Yeah.
Okay, wait.
I'm a fan of this. I think it might be like a funny tongue-in-cheek like criticism of a lot of dating simulators of the idea of, oh, you're still not satisfied. Like you really want to date like this character. This is almost like a, okay, fine. You can date literally anything. And I think that's very funny.
Yeah, that's fair. I hadn't thought about it that way.
Yeah, it looks very charming. I just love the idea of anthropomorphized like toaster and and they were like, oh, like you could date a lamp. Well, you can.
Yep.
And just like, I don't know, it's just like a really funny trailer. I love seeing games like this, and I love seeing games that like also play to like a queer audience specifically a lot more. You know what I mean? You see that a lot in the cozy game space, but like especially like in Nintendo Directs and Nintendo centric stuff, seeing games that are like overtly queer in their marketing, I just find to be a really nice, refreshing change of pace and a good sign of the times.
The next game shown off was a pretty big hit on Steam, or at least for an indie game, and it is Peglin. It is another coming today kind of release as a timed console exclusive. Peglin is sort of a Peggle meets rogue like combat. And I don't know a whole lot about it. I just know it did pretty well when it came out on Steam because I saw lots of stuff about it. So it makes sense that they finally came over to the Switch and consoles and stuff. And you can check it out now.
Peglin rules. I love Peglin. I've played a little bit of it. I haven't played a ton of it. I want to play more. I'm excited to have it on the Switch. Actually, they might pick it up there. But yeah, Peglin is a super cool game. Peggle is just an amazing game. And PopCap isn't making Peggle games anymore. So I'm glad somebody's doing it. They put a spin on it. And it's really great to see.
The next game shown off was called Wobbly Life, coming out in December. I don't know. This was one of those trailers where they didn't really explain much, and I did kind of tuned out, to be honest with you. I don't have a whole lot to say about Wobbly Life.
That's okay. Looks like the crap that was on Facebook 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah. Is this the one that is like over the shoulder and kind of looks like trash?
Yeah.
Probably worded that a little bit better.
There was more than one that could fit the description from today, but this was one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good on this one. Sorry to the developers of Wobbly Life.
It might be great. It wasn't presented well. But the next game was presented a little bit better, and that is Pico Park 2, another timed console exclusive that is available today. A sort of a puzzle platformer multiplayer game with a little bit of multiplayer mayhem mixed in, and they actually kind of explained it, so that helps.
This is a very, very popular streaming game for a while. This was one where it was like, there was like a while where every single streamer that was playing this game with all their streamer friends. I think there was even a stream where like AOC played this game online. So this is just a very popular game in general. I'm getting lots of vibes of like Snipper Clips and Box Boy and Box Girl, obviously with the co-op element there. But this kind of has a little bit more massively co-op. It's not an MMO, but it's got up to 8 players co-op online, which is pretty big for the Switch. So have you guys played Pico Park at all?
No, I definitely watched a little bit of the streams, and this does look fun, but as a generally single player gamer, doesn't really appeal to me. It doesn't look like as fun if you're just playing this one player. But I'd play with y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I think I might get this.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
Well,
if you do, hit me up. I think these could be some pretty fun Switch Headz games. If you decide to.
Yeah.
Well, Nintendo Next had a sizzle reel of sorts with about 6 or so games, most of which I think they've shown off in previous Indie World presentations. I'm just going to rattle these off and we can talk about any of them or we can move on. Shovel Knight, Europa, Cuiseneer, On Your Tail, Metal Slug Tactics, and The Plucky Squire. All games I am familiar with because I've seen them in previous ones, so it makes sense. And then also one of those things that I think has the last few Indie Worlds, they've shown off games again like this. So it used to be everybody would say you only get one Indie World, but it seems you definitely have a chance to get back in a sizzle reel.
Yeah, that's true. Shovel Knight DX, I still don't quite fully understand what is new about that game or why they're re-releasing Shovel Knight for like the third or fourth time now.
It's the DX version.
Could enlighten me? Yeah, I just don't really understand.
I'm not really sure either.
As far as I can tell, it's kind of got like NSO style features where you can do like the rewind and things like that.
Oh,
that's what I can tell just based off of what I see.
I'd buy the game again to rewind.
Yeah, the rewind feature. I don't know if this is like one of those things. It's like could have been an update, but I mean that's for me. Yeah.
I don't really want to get this out of kind of principle, I bought Treasure Trove like 2 or 3 times, so I think I'm gonna have to pass on this one. But Europa looks really good. Yes. I've been having my eye on Europa for a long time. There's 2 games that are Europa is coming out really soon, and then there's also Mika and the Witch's Mountain, which is another game that just came out. Mm-hmm. These are both like indie games that have kind of similar aesthetics. They're kind of Wind Waker-y looking, and they're kind of I know Mika and the Witch's Mountain, you're like flying around on a broomstick. You're this like witch named Mika. And this one has kind of similar aesthetics and similar exploration style gameplay. Really excited to finally see Europa get a release or a release date rather. Obviously, I think the Plucky Squire out of all of these, I think looks the best. The Plucky Squire truly looks like a remarkable game.
Yes.
Everybody that I've heard that has had hands-on previews with the game has had only really amazing things to say about it. Mm-hmm. I think the graphics are incredible. It's an ex-Pokemon developer as well that's working on this game. So yeah, way to get out of Game Freak there, buddy.
Seriously. I'm hearing like obviously early to say this, but like GOTY contender.
Yeah.
Plucky Squire. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the guess.
It's the same developers as the Swords of Ditto, Mormo's Curse. Is that correct?
I'm actually not sure.
I don't know what that is. Sorry, dude.
Yeah, it was another Devolver game that is like a roguelike, and it's basically a roguelike Zelda, top-down Zelda game, where the world kind of generates and you have different squares that you kind of go and explore. And I actually really enjoyed my time with that game. I think I kind of ran out of steam just because of the nature of that game. There was only like so much repetition that you could do, but I was like, this game is really beautiful, 1, and 2 was just like really fun to play. So I was like really curious, like what else are these people going to work on? So, yeah.
Swords of Ditto, you're totally right. It is the same developer. And Swords of Ditto is a really cool game. I can't believe I didn't put 2 and 2 together, that these are the same devs, because it's similar art style, like you said, but it looks like everything has been just advanced and taken to another level and like folded quite literally in on itself, right? So I'm really excited to play this, especially as someone who is a big A Link Between Worlds enjoyer. Seems like basically they kind of took the mechanic from that game and sort of turned it into an entire game that kind of plays with the meta-contextual setting with which the game is set.
Rounding out the indie world was the final announcement of Pizza Tower, another available today thing that makes a lot of sense. That game was really big on Steam, a year and a half ago?
I'd say about time. Yeah.
That's how they closed it out. Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be excited to play that one. I have not played it, but maybe I'll get it on Switch. I don't know if it'll be any reason to do it one place or the other, but cool that it is available for Switch.
You should definitely play it. It's a very fun game. I don't know, did you ever play the Wario Land games or Wario Land 4?
No.
Yeah.
So I've kind of missed that whole style.
It's all good. We've got 2 amazing Wario Land 4 likes coming to the Switch. I mean, one is
Anton's game or whatever.
Anton Blast. Yeah. And those are both really similar games, but it's like, who cares? Whatever. That's great. They're both new games that are clearly inspired by Wario Land 4, and so that's fantastic. Pizza Tower really is a phenomenal game. I think you would really like it quite a bit, Patrick, and get a little stressful sometimes, but it's got this wonderful get to the end of the stage and then rush all the way back to the beginning after you've like made it to the end. And so that's kind of like the main gimmick of the game, other than the picking up enemies and throwing them like you did in Wario Land 4. But yeah, really great. It's so good to see. I think the one takeaway from this as well is just kind of like, it's kind of just shows how hard it probably is to get a license to publish games on the Switch, especially if you are like a solo developer and self-publishing, like Pizza Tower was a huge fucking game. Like, and I doubt that there was like Steam exclusivity on that game or anything like that. So it's like,
it had to be affordability, I think. Yeah,
totally. And I'm sure they made more than enough money for everything, but it's probably just the hoops you have to jump through in order to get on the Switch, going gold, all the cert stuff that you have to go through to get onto the Switch. It really just shows if you're not a well-known publisher or you partner with somebody who can get your stuff up there easily, like you see with all the slop that's all over the eShop everywhere, it really can be a pretty difficult thing. So I hope that changes a little bit with the Switch successor, and then it's a little bit easier for some of these indie devs to publish their games on the Switch. I don't want to see it become the Steam store like that necessarily, but there's a bunch of games that I see, especially in this presentation, that have been out for a while on Steam and they're finally coming to this platform. There's a bunch that I'd love to see on a Nintendo platform going forward, just games that I've enjoyed on Steam myself.
And that's how they closed out Indie World, and then they swiftly moved us into the Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase as part of the same presentation video, and opened the Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase with Tetris Forever coming out sometime this year. They gave us 2024, a collection of, what was it, about 12 or so? I don't actually remember. Maybe it was 8, somewhere in that range.
Something like that, yeah.
Tetris games, including NES Tetris and Hatris and Tetris 2, and I don't know. I couldn't list
Tetris
them all.
plus Bombliss. A lot of the weirdo Tetris sequels that came out around like in arcades and on the NES and on the Super Nintendo and kind of that era of Tetris releases.
I'm going to mention this now because it seems to be related in their announcement that NES Tetris was also announced to be coming to NSO, which is the sort of one Nintendo kind of announcement they squeaked in here, along with a new Tetris 99 Maximus Cup event this winter that they said, which presumably ties into Tetris Forever somehow. They didn't really explain.
Yeah, I would imagine, and before I gush on this game release, I'll just talk about the Maximus Cup. I do think that it's probably going to be NES Tetris themed, like, or as the game is nowadays known, classic Tetris. I imagine that it'll just be a classic Tetris theme for Tetris 99, which is very exciting because we also have already as a theme in Tetris 99, the Game Boy Tetris theme, which is one of the first themes that they released, right? So I love playing in that classic mode with that, and so playing the NES version I think would be really awesome. I hope that's what it is. Maybe there'll be even multiple themes throughout this. If they, they said it was a Maximus Cup event, not just a Maximus Cup. So maybe there'll be a few different themes that you can unlock with this, which would be really hype. Do you guys mind if I just gush on fucking Tetris for a second? I love Tetris so much. I love Tetris so much. I was like, when this came up, I don't know if you guys were watching the stream when I did it this morning, but I literally started crying when they started showing this game off on stream this morning. Granted, I had not fully had one single cup of coffee, and so I was a little out of it emotionally and physically drained. But man, this game looks fantastic. And it's by Digital Eclipse, who has been doing amazing work with their Gold series of games, right? These are the same guys that did the Jeff Minter, the Lamasoft story, Atari 50, all those kind of like livable documentary historical games that they produce, right? And so them doing this with Tetris is like music to my ears because I love those kinds of games. I love the medium of like a playable documentary, right? And like learning about the history of a game series through actually playing the games, right? And not just watching a YouTube video about it or something. It's really fucking fantastic. They've been putting so much love and care into all these releases. And then just having the original Tetris creators on board, all the new modes that they showed off, all these different kinds of styles. You know, I'm somebody who has like 6 or 7 Tetris games on my Switch, including like a Tetris game that only released for cell phones in Japan. So yeah, I'm pretty excited for this release. I'm very excited to play it. I wish it was here already, but it seems like it's coming out later this year. So I am satisfied.
Yeah, I think this looks cool. I'm not a huge Tetris person like you, David, but I'm tempted to pick this up and
I think just as an artifact is like awesome, especially because like I feel like didn't they mention that the documentary footage is new for the game specifically, which is incredible. Like, and it just seems like Nintendo could take a note out of this book. This is the 40th anniversary, and you're like, oh, they're doing a big blowout just to celebrate the series and the history of the franchise in a way that like everyone's gonna love. It's like, I wish Nintendo would do this for their properties. That might be a little bit nicer instead of doing nothing. Yeah.
This started a theme as well for this direct, which is a collection of old games being released as one pack, right? Something that Nintendo doesn't like to do. You know, they'll be like, hey, you can buy this collection, but it's like 2 separate games or whatever, right? Like, and there was another game shown off later on. There was also a collection of games made by another developer, M2. We'll talk about that in a second, but they've been working with Konami to release these Castlevania games. And it's like just having these studios that actually put the work in. I'm talking about Digital Eclipse, M2, Night Dive, you know, these kinds of studios that really care about game preservation. It just shows, right? And I don't think you have to enjoy Karateka or any of the Jeff Minter games in order to enjoy a game like that, right? That shows you this. It's all you have to have is a love for the industry and a love for the medium. And I think that this is something that everybody should pick up if you have any interest in game history.
We'll move on. There were a lot of games here that I'm not sure we want to like dig into. And I'm going to start off the next one being like one of those. Star Overdrive, a game coming out in 2025 was shown off. Jordan wants to talk about
that. I do actually want to talk about because I still think about this game a lot. It's Ben Esposito had a company called Arcane Kids a long time ago before he did Neon White and Donut County. This is not him. However, there was a game. Yeah, I didn't want to get you excited, so I wanted to just nip that in the bud. There's a game that they made called Zenith, which I still think about very frequently. It's a like roller skating open world game where you're just like cruising on sand dunes, and just like the sense of momentum that you get is just like incredible, super fun. And they were supposed to be making this game. It's supposed to be a first-person skateboarding video game called Perfect Stride. Never got out of alpha. Last time I checked, they said we're still making it. It's not coming. This looks close. Like this looks like a mix of like that kind of like surfing over like large scale areas, as well as just like then like the battle mechanics as well. This actually looks really dope to me personally. So I just wanted to give that a quick little shout out.
Did you ever play Crap No One Loves Me by Arcane Kids?
No.
My game's cool. It's another first-person skating game.
Oh.
But you skate on coffins. Anyway, sorry, we can move on.
Well, after Star Overdrive, Goat Simulator 3 was announced, another today for the digital version, which is kind of interesting because a remake of the original Goat Simulator was announced at Gamescom, but this was held for this, I guess. I don't know. But Goat Simulator fans got a lot of announcements this week. But that's happening. And then there was
I just can't get into the Goat Simulator games, man. I can't stay silent on this any longer. I just don't give a single fuck. And it's like they did a fun thing where it's like, where's Goat Simulator 2? Because there is no Goat Simulator 2, and that's like part of the joke. But man, I don't know. I just don't like that this has turned into like a genre of games, which is just like jank physics engine simulator. I don't know. I don't think it has any home on the Nintendo Switch. I don't know why I'm being a hater. I'm going to stop talking.
Well, we got another sizzle reel here with a bunch of games showing off in this one. Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky, the first. Star Wars Hunters, Stalker Legends of the Zone Trilogy, Worms Armageddon. I remember that game, Anniversary Edition, and a Disney Dreamlight Valley in-game event thing happening. So I don't know if there's anything there. Stop me if you want to talk about any of those.
It's interesting to see Stalker on the Switch. Those used to be kind of like benchmark games for your PC. You know, those were like really intense games to play back in the day. I know this got a release, I think, on like Xbox and PlayStation and stuff like that. And it's, you know, and I think they have taken quite a hit graphically on the Switch, but the Stalker games are very cool. Shadows of Chernobyl and a few of those other ones, Call of Pripyat and stuff like that. Those are really great games. So if you haven't played those before, this is a good opportunity.
Then next up, coming in early October, SpongeBob SquarePants: The Patrick Star Game was announced. Yep.
Sure. I hate the title. I absolutely hate the title. Just call it the Patrick Star Game. Everyone knows who Patrick Star is if you know who SpongeBob is.
That's fair. Yeah. This is the IP that they have to.
Yeah, they gotta. Well, we'll move on to Fitness Boxing 3, Your Personal Trainer, December 5th. I know, David, you've played some fitness boxing, I think.
And Summer.
Yeah, I was about to say, here's a game that I think we can agree on being excited about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I was going to pick up the Hatsune Miku fitness boxing game, but I kind of decided against it just because I don't know how loudly I want to play that game and if my neighbors hear me playing a Vocaloid game every single day. But I will pick this up, I think, because I waited long enough to pick up the Hatsune Miku one, and now this one's coming out later in the year, and it looks like it actually has a lot of quality of life improvements and new features and stuff like that, which the Hatsune Miku one doesn't really have. It just has Hatsune Miku songs. So this looks like something I'm going to pick up.
Yeah, I'm excited for it too. Exactly. Like the new modes, and honestly, the trainers look better, which is like kind of exciting. So
yeah, the graphics look better, which makes me think it's going to run shittier. Because like,
okay, so it's going to run great on the Super Switch.
There we go. All right, let's do that.
Yeah.
When next up were two Capcom fighting game collections. First was Capcom Fighting Collection 2, which has like the Capcom vs. SNK games and Power Stone. And then the other one was the Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection, which the first collection is not till next year, but this other one, the Marvel vs. Capcom, is today, another digital today, physical November. So that whole physical thing has been interesting on this one because there are a few games like that where they've said that. So, but yeah, a couple, like you said, David, another set of collections here, about 8 or so games in the Fighting Collection 2. I'm not sure how many were in the Marvel versus Capcom one, but yeah, unless there's anything else, we can keep moving along.
Power Stone,
yeah,
baby.
Dude.
We gotta talk about Power Stone.
Bro.
Holy shit. They really buried the lead on that one. It was like they started showing them and I was like, oh, I don't give a fuck about this game at all. And then they were like, and then Power Stone 1 and 2 are in it. And I was like, you have my attention, Capcom. Anyway, I fucking love those games.
It's like, I don't know what the fuck a Project Justice is or a Plasma Sword. I'm sure there are fans out there, but then they were like, Power Stone. I was like, wait, I'm sorry, what? Like, this, like, and then the fact that they were like, oh yeah, they're all going to be playable online. Multiplayer. I'm like, that's incredible. That is so much fun. That for me, I'm like, okay, Power Stone online with my friends. That is something I can get into.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fighting game guy, especially classic style fighting games. There's only a few that I really enjoy. Power Stone is definitely one of them. It really kind of shook up the formula a little bit. It kind of changed the perspective of a fighting game a little bit, gave it 3 dimensions in a really interesting, cool way. I can't believe they're not just releasing a Power Stone collection and that they're putting it in a collection like this. But either way, I'm pumped.
Well, the next few announcements were some anime and JRPG games. There was Atelier Yuma, The Alchemist of Memories, and The Envisioned Land, early 2025. Suikoden 1 and 2 HD Remaster. Stop me anytime you want. And Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D Remake, which is coming out in November. I've never played a Dragon Quest game, but this one kind of has me tempted. That all happened.
Suikoden 1 and 2 HD is fantastic. I'm really excited to have the Suikoden games come out. And then, yeah, like you said, Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D. Both are just looking fantastic. This was like kind of a run of HD 2D games here. I didn't actually think I knew that the Suikoden remakes were going to be HD 2D. Maybe we knew that before, but actually seeing them for the first time here was very exciting. And yeah, I'm just glad to see that this style of game is not going away. I still hope we see a Chrono Trigger remake like this one day.
Mm.
A boy can dream, man.
Super Switch launch title.
Yes.
Well, another collection up next that David, you hinted to earlier, the Castlevania Dominus collection.
Yes.
Another out today thing. Got 3 Castlevania games. These are all from the DS. Is that right?
That's correct.
As well as some arcade game. I didn't quite understand. I'm not familiar with that. They kind of mentioned.
So Haunted Castle was basically Castlevania in arcades. It just wasn't called Castlevania in Japan when it came out. It was called Haunted Castle for some reason. And and so we're getting both of those, which is really cool as well. They did this with the Advanced Collection too. It was like Castlevania, all the 3 Advanced games, and then also Rondo of Blood for like the Super Nintendo, not like the good version of Rondo of Blood, So they always kind of throw in a little bit of something extra, and this time around it was that. I don't know if you guys have checked this out yet, or if any of you guys are planning on checking it out.
I 100% will check this out. Like, I bought the Castlevania Advanced Collection day one when it came out, and then I played 2 of the 3. I still haven't played Area of Sorrow, and realized, like, man, I really just want the fucking DS games so bad. They're incredible. Some of the best Igavanias ever made. I think I'm mostly stoked too, because my favorite part of the Castlevania Advanced Collection was more that they included like all the manuals for every region. They included a bunch of like sick concept art. And this looks to be doing like the same thing, as a preservation kind of deal. I think the weirdest part about this is going to be, though, is certain aspects of it did require like the second screen, specifically in Dawn of Sorrow. Whenever you beat a boss, you have to seal the boss by like drawing a symbol on the screen. And I'm kind of curious how that plays out. I did notice they have kind of like it on the side. Well,
I know how they do it, or at least how they're doing it on PlayStation. I imagine it's the same on the Switch, because this is a multi-platform release. I think it went to everything today when it came out, which is fantastic. But there are button prompts on the corners now of each of the spots that you would have to like trace with your finger before. So now it's kind of like a QTE sort of event situation where it's like, press this to do this corner, this. So I think that's a good, acceptable way to incorporate that. Again, I talked about M2 before. They do really great improvements and stuff like this for their Castlevania releases in particular. Like I think the last one, like the advanced one, had like bestiaries, and it had little pop-ups whenever you would get cards that made the quality of life better as you play. This is another one of those things, right? It just kind of, instead of stripping out that entire functionality of the game because there isn't a second screen for you to play with now, they kind of changed it up a little bit to make it more palatable to a modern audience, which I love. And then also DS games on Switch often just kind of look like shit, because it's like you've got the one main big screen, and then you've got like a small screen over in the corner with a bunch of empty space. I think this game actually did a really good job of figuring out what to do there, and they just have the map always up. And then underneath is the bottom screen, and then you have your main screen. So everything is filled out, and it looks a lot more visually pleasing, I think, than something like, say, the Mega Man ZX collection or whatever that came out. That was like a little bit, I don't know, just something about that didn't tickle the OCD in my head the same way that this one did. So I'm happy to see that.
Yeah.
Well, y'all, please do stop me if you want to talk about any of these. I'm going to cruise through these next ones here. Civilization 7 coming February 11th. That was also at Gamescom, coming out to the Switch. That was kind of surprising. Tales of Grace's F remastered. January, My Sims Cozy Bundle. I'd heard some rumors about this one.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. This was like on all the websites when I'm searching for news. I was seeing that there were people talking like My Sims maybe coming to the Switch.
Damn.
I don't know about it.
Sims.
Got the hot scoop. Yeah.
Anything but bring the Sims to the Switch.
Really? What the fuck,
this
man?
This is basically Sims for the Switch, though, I guess.
Yeah, it's such a slam dunk. I mean, My Sims was a Wii game originally, right? I think so.
It looks like it.
Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah. It was for the Wii and Nintendo DS. So these are probably like the Wii ports, right? So I like seeing more Wii games come to the Switch, but not like this.
Still looks better than Funko Fusion. I'll give it that.
We'll get to that in a second. There was Five Nights at Freddy's, a couple of different games, another sizzle reel, our third of the day here, with a bunch of things. Disney, Epic Mickey, Tales of the Shire, Just Dance 2025, Funko Fusion for you, Jordan, EA Sports FC 25, and the Lego Horizon Adventures made it into the Direct. They showed a PlayStation property. And then the last couple here are Rune Factory, Guardians of Azuma, I think is how they said it.
Probably Azuma.
Azuma? I don't remember. Yeah, Azuma. Coming out spring 2025. That spent some time on that one. That seems like something people will be excited about.
I am hoping that this is the Rune Factory for me.
Have you tried a few of them?
Yeah, and they don't like I want to like them, and like I'll maybe try Harvestella at some point too. They're just like hasn't for me been the perfect like combination between like JRPG and farming game. And like there was another game that just came out to the Switch that is also, it's the same studio as Rune Factory and got a lot of hype and then got like horrible reviews from everyone. And I was like, damn, when is there going to be like, when are they going to nail something? And I don't know, something about you're an Earth Dancer. I'm like into that. So I really hope, I'm trying to keep my expectations low. But like, please, I want this to be a slam dunk so bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I definitely was thinking about Emma when this came out. I'm sure Emma is very excited for this because it looks like a Rune Factory game with like Xenoblade graphics.
It
right?
looks
like
so nice. Yeah.
Yeah, like the actual look of the game is like far evolved past any Rune Factory game before this.
Yeah.
And those games aren't for me, but I know they have diehard fans, and it's really nice to see franchises evolve in this way, right? And so I hope this one, gets past the Rune Factory fans that are going to buy every game in the franchise, and I hope this actually kind of grows and we see more of an evolution of this series going forward.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then the final announcement was a game in a franchise that has been talked about a lot on the Switch Headz Discord recently, and that is Yakuza. It is Yakuza Kiwami coming out pretty soon for the Switch, October 24th. And that's how they closed out the Direct Partner Showcase.
Do you know how many Discord servers I got added in today after this announcement?
What do you mean?
Oh, just like there's no excuse anymore. And like finally let these bare-chested men punch their way into your heart. And, I've done skits like parodying moments from the Yakuza series, even though I haven't played the original, if I haven't played this specific title. So, I might still play it on Xbox, but still, like, we'll see how it runs, right? Like, that's kind of my thing is like, yeah, it would be nice to have it mobile. Well, that my main hesitation is like, we'll see how it runs. But we've had other, like, it's like a hit and miss with games like this on the Switch, right? Like games like Persona 5 Royal and Nier Automata, like those run great. And you can't even tell that they had to, like, all of the work that they put in. But then you have other games that just like Hogwarts, like just run like absolute dog shit. So hopefully this goes the way it should.
Yeah. I'm excited to finally see this come back to Nintendo platforms after there was a Yakuza collection that came to the Wii U, which I think were not the remakes, not like the Kiwami games, but just like upscaled versions of the original Yakuza games. I think it was 1 through 3, maybe. I forget exactly what was in the Wii U collection, but it did not sell well. And I think for a long time, the creator was like, well, I guess Nintendo platforms are just for babies and they can't handle adult games like the Yakuza series, and finally, maybe he saw the sheer number of hentai games on the eShop was like, it's time to bring the series over to Nintendo platforms again. I'm excited for this. I can't really see a world in which I'd be playing this on Switch instead of my Steam Deck, especially given that they're bringing Kiwami over and not Yakuza 0, which is the kind of official start to the canon. It is like the first game in the chronology of the series. And from everything I hear in play orders, everyone says to start with Yakuza 0 and then move to Yakuza Kiwami. So I kind of wish that they brought 0 over, or maybe brought a few of these games over kind of in one go and ported a few at once. But look, if this is the only way that you can play it, it seems like this is a really great start. I just hope that people actually play it on this platform this time so that they feel more emboldened to release the rest of the games on Nintendo platforms in the future.
Well, that was it for the Direct in terms of its content. I think we have to talk about a couple things. Maybe we have to give a grade because we often do that for these presentations for Directs. But we also have to talk about what this means because there's the obvious implication that Nintendo did not show off any first party stuff. They did not have a September or this, theoretically should have been in September. So the elephant in the room, of course, is does this mean that Nintendo plans to announce the next console, the Super Switch, in September?
Let's start with the grade because I'm interested what you guys think about this. And it's a little hard because, you want to grade it. I feel like there's two ways you can grade it, right? You can grade each of these individually or together as a unit, right? And I'll start. I mean, I think for me, the Indie World was an A. I thought it was a fantastic Indie World, maybe an A-, but I'd give it a solid A. I thought it was a really, really good showing from Nintendo. I'd probably give this Direct quite a bit lower, even though the Tetris thing was awesome. And I love Power Stone and Castlevania. Those were all highlights. These are all just still re-releases and packages of old games thrown together, right? So I think I'd be lying if I gave this thing anything more than like a C- or so, right? So I think altogether, I think between the two of those, if you're going to average those out, I'd give this a B this morning. And I think maybe that's also bolstered by the fact that my expectations were just at ground level, right? I just did not expect much out of this at all. And I was pleasantly surprised in both instances by both of these, even if, I wasn't a huge fan of the Direct itself. I think together as a unit, this was a really solid presentation from Nintendo.
Yeah, I'll go next. I mean, I feel pretty similarly. Like I didn't really know what to expect. Definitely the Indie World, definitely an A. That was great. There's a lot of new games that I had not heard of before this that I am now excited to play. Definitely, maybe I'm a little bit more lenient, but I'll give the other one like a C+, only for the fact that it is a repackaging of old games, but it is some games that I never expected to get a re-release, like Power Stone. I never thought that would happen. Also, there are some new games like Civ 7 coming to Switch is kind of crazy because when I saw that game first announced, it looks visually incredible. So the fact that they're going to be able to kind of pare it down to fit onto the Switch is kind of an accomplishment. Tetris Forever looks incredible. Mm-hmm. Same with the Castlevania thing. I just never thought it would happen. I always held out hope, but just those kind of collections did really kind of push it over, even if the rest of it kind of felt like end of life cycle filler. So I'd go overall rating. I'd give this thing like a B+, only because when it hit for me for sure.
I felt pretty solid B
for
overall.
Both.
Yeah, I think I'm not quite as high on the Indie World as you, David, and I'm not quite as low on the Direct. And I just felt like there wasn't a ton of stuff that really excited me, but I felt like I can see why some other people would be happy. Just felt like a good B.
Yeah, I briefly looked at the list of games that were in the Japanese Direct compared to what we got here. And I can say with my full chest that this would have been an A for me if we were getting Tokimeki Memorial. I am deeply saddened that we are still not getting those games. Because they are so critically acclaimed, like Tokimeki Memorial. I mean, not to upset people, but it is up there with Chrono Trigger as far as historically critically acclaimed games. So the fact that it's still not getting localized, we're getting a game called Date Everything. We can get a dating sim game that is deep and emotional. That alone upsets me.
Because it was a re-release of, was it several games in that series the Japanese version got?
Yeah,
or was it just the original?
It's like a totally redux of the original Tokimeki Memorial that was the pinnacle, this is how you do a game like this. And I'm I don't want that. Please get localized at some point, please, God, like officially, right? Because I think that's the issue is the original. It's so dense that like there is no like I don't like fan project doing it is just too nuts. Like you need to pay people money to do it. Anyway, I'm also a solid B, I think, because a lot of these games we did know about, and the ones that we didn't know about, like weren't like this humongo thing for me, like kind of like what I said about Rune Factory, right? I want to be excited about it, but I've been kind of lukewarm on so many of those games that like I want it to be the big thing I'm excited for. But I'm gonna wait for reviews. I'm not gonna buy it at launch. But I am going to get boxing at launch, probably. Probably get Date Everything at launch.
True. I mean, even for me, like with the Castlevania game, like I know I'm going to get that, but I also like know that those games go on sale really regularly.
Totally.
I don't know that I'm going to pick up the DS collection right now because I don't think I'm going to play it in like the next like 3 weeks or so. Even though I love those games and I've been looking forward to this collection for a while, I've just got other shit on my radar, including Super Mario Eclipse, like a free game that I'm going to play. Right.
Exactly.
Can I, as a quick side note, and I know we should actually talk about what the topic is, but I just had a thought that a really cool feature for like maybe like a future Steam Deck or something would be is like a good use of AI would be like and kind of auto translate feature that is system level that sits on top of everything. And even if you like emulate an old Japanese game, it like translates for you live. You know what I mean? Because I was trying to think about like how do we get around like translation? Because
yes and no. That's a whole can of worms there too. But yeah.
But still, I mean, I would love
fix.
something like that. I was playing some Japanese games on my TV the other day, and I just got tired of holding my phone up constantly and like seeing what they were saying. So, anyway, whatever. That's beside the point.
That gets into the conversation that we're already having about like voice actor work. Is like I don't want to take that work away from localizers. Which I think is a job that needs to be done, but
I don't know.
We can have the discussion separately.
Let's talk about that later. Yeah.
Well, should we talk about the implications then of this and the possibility of what this means for Nintendo first-party games and hardware? Does anybody have any thoughts? The obvious speculation that's being put out there is that Nintendo will have some sort of presentation in September announcing their hardware since they did this now. Do you think there's any merit to that or any reason to believe that or not believe that?
I sure want to believe. I've got that poster of the UFO on my wall, baby. I want to believe. X-Files, Mulder and Scully, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, I think I'll just like rehash the things I was saying a year ago, but I'm just going to reapply it again to this year. Holiday.
Could be. Not this year though. But I think that no, I think it's very likely that we will. The reason that they did this was so that they can drop, at the very least, a big trailer for the Super Switch next month. I think we saw the Karen on the rooftop playing Switch trailer in September of 2016. We got like a full blowout for what the Switch actually was in January, but that came out in September, and so that would definitely track if they're going to be doing similar stuff for the release window of the next Switch console. But I also think that this was close enough to September to where I could see Nintendo being like, that was our September Direct, guys. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? So I think that it's really not smart to get too hyped up and to be Mulder and Scully from the X-Files television program, but to be a little bit more grounded with our expectations. I don't know if you guys agree with me on that, but I'm going to try to keep my expectations low in the hope that I get surprised later in the month.
I agree, mostly because if they're going to do a September Direct that's specifically Nintendo, it's going to be 40 minutes minimum, right? So like how much can they really talk about a Super Switch but not reveal do a full reveal for 40 minutes when a lot of the stuff that was in this presentation probably would have ended up in a Nintendo Direct proper. So to me, I'm like, I don't know if they have that much to talk about. And I don't think they're ready to really reveal a lot of the Super Switch games that are going to be out on launch. I just don't think they're ready to reveal those.
I think a 40-minute Nintendo Direct in September is out of the question. I don't think that's going to happen, right? But I could see them doing a 3 to 5 minute reveal, right? Or maybe even 10, right? maybe not do it as a live thing, but they'd be kind of dumb not to. But I imagine it would be something that's going to be a lot shorter if they do reveal it next month.
Yeah, you said what I think is how I feel, and that is that like everybody's saying it makes a lot of sense, but until Nintendo says it, man, this could, like you said, I kind of feel like there could just be like, we're gonna keep our cards hidden. You know what I mean? Like, and this was our presentation for the fall or what have you. But it's hard not to get on that hype train.
There'll be a Nintendo Direct, but it'll be all about the Donkey Kong Country expansion to the Japanese theme park. And they'll be like, just so you know, there'll be no word of the Switch successor in this presentation. And
you are literally right. Or it's going to be like a 10-second teaser trailer for the next Mario movie.
Yeah.
I mean, the museum direct would have been part of the bigger direct proper. Like that would have filled out a 40-minute presentation.
And it's opening in October, right?
Yeah.
So they would have held that. Maybe
you would think. You would think, but
or they're trying to drip stuff more.
Possible.
Drip on me, daddy.
Well, there was just we've talked about how the folks that are making more decisions at Nintendo these days are not, who were 10 years ago. So becoming maybe more quote unquote company traditional with how they do some things. I mean, now that like directs are like across the board, like an industry standard, but maybe the way that they do directs could be changing.
Well, it's hard to speculate too much. I think that's probably it, right? Like, because it's the obvious thing that everybody's saying is so it's either that or it's not, right? And time will tell. In a month or so, we'll look back and know. But unless there's anything else about this direct or the speculation, I think that's going to do it for our main topic this week. We are going to take another short break, and when we come back, we will talk about the games we've been playing recently. All right, so the only video game I have fired up this past week is Minecraft. I talk about Minecraft a lot. I have just mostly been working on making and testing my game Monochrome Heights to take this weekend. So my kid got sick this weekend and we had to cancel some plans and we played a shit ton of Minecraft together. But that is it for me this week. Hopefully soon I will have more to report.
Yeah, I'll go because I'm pretty quick as well. When I was in New York, the three of us, the main actor, the director, and myself, we played a lot of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Mario Party Superstars, and Mario Kart 8 pretty much every night whenever we were done with whatever we were doing out on the city. About 10 p.m., 11 p.m., we're like, well, do you want to go play some Smash? So we would just go back and play that. And those are kind of the games in rotation. And then also of note, on the plane, I did start the JRPG Club game right now, Star Ocean, the Second Story R. I'm about 4 or 5 hours in. I just got the third party member. A lot of really kind of dragging upfront story. But now that I'm like getting into the more open world aspect of it and kind of branching out, I'm starting to get a little bit more into it, but there's just like so much going on. There's so much text to read as far as mechanics and tutorials, but I'm actually really enjoying the styles of the battles. And I think as the further I get along, I'll realize how not like shallow, but not as deep as a more newer game might go into some of the mechanics are. But I'm really stoked to keep going. I actually am really starting to get into the characters and in the world itself. But yeah, that's it. That's all I've been playing.
Very cool. Yeah, I also played some Ultimate the other day. I recently got an octagonal gate for my 8-bit dough fight stick that I have. If you don't know, the 8-bit dough fight stick is an awesome arcade fight stick for like a pretty good price. My brother got it for me for my birthday a while ago. But it's got like a square gate inside, which means if you want to push in any of the cardinal directions, it kind of doesn't stay there. It kind of drifts off to the up, right, bottom, and left corners, so getting an octagonal gate made it to where it's a lot easier to play games. And so a lot of the stuff I played was actually with that fight stick this past week. I brought it over to my friend's house and I played Smash with him on the fight stick. And I actually won most of my matches with that. And that was really fun. And I think I want to start playing Smash with the fight stick because that was actually a lot of fun. But anyway, the other games that I want to talk about that I played with that, I played Tetris 99 with the fight stick. I played it on stream, and I was like, hey, I wonder if this will be fun with the stick. And I got Maximus Cup with my first game that I played on stream, baby. So I felt very good about that Maximus Cup, Tetris Maximus, whatever you call it. I won. I got the dub. So that was very exciting. I also tried Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble with the fight stick. That was not as good because that's a game you really want to play with analog control. But I was streaming that as well. I was on the last like 4 levels, and it took me a while. But I did eventually beat that game. So this is my first time actually fully completing Banana Rumble. I had a really good time doing it. And I got raided by some Super Monkey Ball speedrunners who came in. And so the Super Monkey Ball speedrunning community was in my chat, watching me complete the game, cheering me on, giving me tips, making me feel inferior. It was a really great time. Thank you guys all very much for joining me. I can't wait to play more of that game. And now that I realize that baby is the best monkey, I'll be playing it quite a bit more. Other than that, I have been playing some retro games, especially with the fight stick. I played through Super Mario Brothers 2, The Lost Levels, for the first time. I did use the rewind feature quite a bit. I will not lie, because that game, not only is it hard, like if it was just hard, that would be one thing. It's fucking cheap as hell, dog. They put all this dumbass shit, like you'll get to the end of a level, it'll just loop you back to the beginning, or it'll put you in a place where you can only warp back to World 1. And I'm like, bro, I'm not going to play through all these levels again. So stuff like that makes me really happy to have the rewind feature and save states and stuff like that. And then I also have been playing a lot more Donkey Kong Country 2. I don't really need to talk about that too much. I talk about it all the time, but I've been loving playing that on my CRT that I have back here in the back. But the new game that I played for the NES that I really enjoyed was Devil World. I don't know if you guys have actually played this. We've talked about it on the show before. This was one of Shigeru Miyamoto's early games. It is essentially a Pac-Man clone and ripoff, but it is such a good game. It is very fun. It adds just enough to make that Pac-Man style gameplay feel really fresh and really unique. It's got the side moving, like scrolling of the screen mechanic that, the assist trophy has from Smash. But, just the way that they do it is really cool. And I just love the like overt Christian imagery in this game. Like, it's just really funny to me, like picking up Bibles and like putting crucifixes into little holes and all this different kind of shit. I don't know. I just love Japan's fascination with like Christian imagery. That'll never not be funny to me. Like Link having a Christian cross on his shield and stuff like that. I just find very humorous. But definitely don't sleep on Devil World if you've never played it. Still feels really fresh and is very fun to play to this day.
Cool. And I have mostly just been playing Fire Emblem 3 Houses. I finally published an AMV, so you can watch that. But I'm getting through Maddening Golden Deer. Gosh, the Death Knight is no joke in that I literally had to sacrifice everybody. I'm playing on casual. You can still get the special menu playing on casual. You just can't use New Game Plus. And I had to sacrifice practically my entire team to take out the Death Knight. And then because Final Fantasy XIV was down during the time that I usually play with my friends, we spent 30 minutes figuring out another game to play, and I was talked into finally trying out Wingspan. And by talked into, I mean I heard someone talking about it, and I was like, well, I've been wanting to try it, and I have a lot of friends that do play this, so yeah, let's go ahead and give it a try. It was like on sale on Humble Bundle, so give it a go. And wow, I love engine building games. It's so satisfying. It's so soothing. It's gorgeous digitally. We own a physical copy of it, but like have never played it with anyone yet either. And the digital version does a really good job of teaching you how to play the game as well. So I feel like more equipped to jump into playing it physically. Have any of you played Wingspan?
No, in fact, I always thought this was a bird simulator game. It seems like it is a card game.
No, it is an engine builder.
Yeah.
So you just are developing all of these different spaces that like ecosystems that birds live in, and it's so like I might double dip and get it on the Switch. I'm playing it on Steam with friends. I might double dip and get it on the Switch so that way I can play it in bed before I go to bed to get that kind of vibe.
Well, awesome. That's going to do it for this episode on the Indie World Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase twofer. Thanks to MilkyWay.co, who does our website. Thanks to Corduroy, who does our music. Thanks to all our patrons on Patreon. If you're looking for me, Patrick, you can find me online as PDYX.
You can find me at Weebwitched.
You can find me online at Bordan.
I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet at Monolith Fiji. And if you'd like to find our show on social media, we are at Switch Headz on Twitter, at Super Switch Headz on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We have a website, that's www.switchheadz.com, and we have a Facebook group, a Discord, and a Patreon. We'll have links to all three of those in the description of this episode, whether you're watching it on YouTube or you are listening to it on Spotify or Apple. Please leave us a comment on YouTube, subscribe to us. We are so close to a big subscriber milestone. In fact, we are 1 subscriber away. So if you're listening to this on audio right now, go to our YouTube page, go subscribe, but also make like that wonderful listener at the beginning of the episode and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts as well. That really helps with visibility. And tell all your friends about the show. We would love to hear from that as well. And we'd love to see you in the Discord. That's going to do it for this episode on all the stuff we just talked about. We're going to be back next week with another great episode. We got a really cool game coming out next week. We're going to be talking all about that. So I can't wait to get into that with all you cool people. But in the meantime, you guys know the drill. Stay safe out there. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to one another. Why don't you indie direct your way to the polls? Vote for, I don't know, Kamala Harris. What am I talking about? Just go participate in democracy. Why am I talking about this? Okay, I'm going to go now. We love you very much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.